Academic Coaching for World Changers. It is the 21st of November, and this is my social work group, and we are talking about research. And I already told them no freaking out. Okay, so some terms. Um, Assessment and appraisal. You might see those. An assessment is any tool we use. It is a WISC, a WACE, a MMPI, an MBTI, any of those initials. An assessment is just gathering more information. The appraisal, however, is I have to make a judgment. Okay. So appraisal is, again, I've got my assessment piece and now I have to make a decision. Is the client still depressed? Has the client gotten better? Are they fighting less depressed? Whatever those things, but that comes from the appraisal part of the assessment. Okay. Those things you learned in fourth grade. I know. The mean, median, and mode. The mean is the average. It is the exact average, right? You add up all the numbers and you divide them by the amount of numbers that you have. So if I have um, 6 numbers, right? I'm going to add those 6 numbers up and divide them by 6. That gives me the exact average. The median is that green grass part on the highway, right? Never cross the median. So that's how I remember that. It's the number in the exact middle. To get the median, you would have to put the numbers in order and then find the number in the exact middle. The mode is the number that appears the most often. Okay, so mean, median, and mode. So when I say mean, median, and mode, they're important because that is where my bell curve comes from. 68, 95, and 99 rule, because math has rules. Right? So basically what it's telling me that in the any population we have, so they're percentages, right? Not numbers, but percentages. So in any population we have, 68% of the people will be in the middle. Okay, we're all about average. So the pink is the middle. And I always say, the pink, everybody likes to be in the pink because that's the biggest number. That's 2/3 of our population that's in the pink. So we look at the mean, median, mode. They're all lined up. When they're all lined up right here, same number, exact same number, I get a standard bell curve. Okay. What it looks like when I break it down. Okay. So the mean, median, and mode are the middle, and this one because they're the same number. So 34 below and 34% above the mean is my first standard deviation. Okay. That's 68. It'll never change. I add the purple, the pink, the purple. Okay. So that is where my 95 comes from. So this is going to be 68. The second standard deviation is 95. Again, never changes. The third one is 99. So I'm adding the green, the purple, the pink, the pink, the pink, the purple. See that? The green. Because this one goes down. This is my median in the middle. The assumption is that's the middle, right? So then anything that goes left is going to be a negative, and anything that goes right is going to be a positive because it's going up the hill or down the hill, assuming that, again, the mean, median, mode are all the same. Okay. So then the remember those. Just remember those. Remember the 68, 95, 99 rule. It will never ever change. So when I look at the 68, if somebody scores, if their score is 72, right? They're going to be in the second 70, they're going to be in the second standard deviation. They're higher than 68, but less than 95, so they're in the second standard deviation. Now, you might see the question when those things do not line up. So if the mode, median, and mean are not the same number, then you have a skewed distribution. So the skewed distribution happens when all of those numbers are not the same. So when you have a skew, remember the mean, median, mode in the beginning, right? They set the curve. But now this is the middle, and the mode is the top of the curve. The reason is because the mode is the number that appears more than once. So always say ice cream a la mode, because the mode is always going to appear on the top. Okay? That median really doesn't do a whole lot, so we just kind of ignore him. And the mean guy's in charge. The mean guy pulls the curve. Okay? So the mode is a number that appears the most often. So let's say I'm a classroom teacher, and in my classroom, I have 20 kids. 5 of those kids scored a 50, right? That sets my mode, the number that appears the most often. However, the class average was a 70. So what that means is the 70 is higher than the 50, and the mean guy pulls the curve. The mean guy decides which way we're going to go. So since the mean is higher than the mode, then it pulls to the right. So it's going up the positive end of the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up. Same thing on the other side. If my mode is 50, again, those same, 5 kids scored 50, but the class average was a 40. The mean is lower than the mode, so the mean guy pulls it down. So it's a left skew because he was a 40 and the mode was a 50. And again, we don't really care about our median, okay? That is a positive, that is a 68, 95, 99 bell curve, and also then a positive and negative skew. A term you might see is the central tendency. The central tendency is back to my 68, 95, 99 curve, because central tendency means that everybody likes to be toward the middle. So all that means is when it's a central tendency, the mean, median, and mode are the same number. Okay, and that's where I get that from. So again, math are rules. It will never change. There's no what if, there's no assessing. Math are just rules. You don't have to bring a TI 84 plus to this test, right? They're not trying to see if you can add and subtract. They're just seeing if you understand the basics of how we do research and assessment. Okay. I like this part. This talks about the CPCE. Furthermore, you do not need to make any calculations. Any calculations are not allowed, and they're not. You don't need any calculations, as you're not allowed to use a calculator. If they ask you for a calculator, it's got some serious stuff on there, but this one doesn't. Same thing that I said. Mode is a number that appears the most often. He pulls the curve. The mean pulls the curve to the left or the right. Okay. I better not say that. Stop. That's my bell curve again, just broken up a different way. Those of you who've taken the test before, have you seen the Z and the T scores being on the test?
Yes, I have.
A Z test or a Z score, do you remember?
It was a Z score.
Okay, so thank you. On my bell curve, so again, this is the same thing. It just has a little more numbers on it. Don't freak out, okay? It's still the exact same thing as the bell curve. So again, you see where the numbers come from. 34 and 38, that gives me the pink part. And then the 13, 13, that gives me the purple. And again, the third, see the the negative 30, negative 3 and positive 3, that is where the 68, 95, 99% lies. Now, the Z score They are transformed scores. Just remember that. Just remember they're transformed. So when I'm looking at T and Z scores, they have been changed from raw scores to transformed scores so we can compare them to each other. So the Z score you will find lines up exactly like the first, second, and third standard deviation. So it's going to line up exactly like it does on the regular bell curve. So my Z score, so the mean, the central tendency, the mode, everything right there is in the exact middle. Okay. So Z scores give me the exact same responses as the standard bell curve. T scores, on the other hand, T scores means the T is for 10. On a T score, the middle is going to be 50, okay, and it goes up and down by 10. So that's my T scores are 10. There's not a negative in a T score. Okay, so my central tendency, mean, median, mode are at the 50. Okay, and then it goes down by 10, up by 10, but you're not getting you're not going to see a zero. You're not going to see a negative on my T scores. Okay, again, just memorizing my Z and T scores. Okay, so this is in writing. So if you're not a picture person, the Z score, the mean is 0, the standard deviation is 1, right? So that means the exact same thing, right? So my Z score is going to line up, right? -3, -1, the exact same thing as my bell curve. My T score is 10. Okay, remind you of 10. So the standard score scale is 50. That was the middle point. The standard deviation is 10. When I said it went up and down by 10, that's what that means. Okay. This concept is called the correlation coefficient. It's a big fancy term. Correlation means I'm looking at how two things are related. The coefficient is the number that tells me how these things are related. Okay, so correlation coefficient look at the relationship between two items, two variables, two means, two things, and seeing how closely they are related. Anytime I see a correlation, that is a qualitative research, the quality. So cause and effect is quantity, where there's a number, but the quality is going to be a correlation or a relationship. I am looking at how these two things are related. So most often, or probably some point in this week, this last few weeks, you've called AT&T or you've ordered something online. You spoke to a customer service desk, and they said, "When you're through, would you mind staying on this call for a one-question survey?" They're trying to correlate the score with the business. They're wanting to know, are you happy with what you got from us? Did it meet your needs? Okay, that's a correlation. So perfect correlation is 100. If you move your decimal points over, it's 100. I'll remind you, this has nothing to do with the bell curve. Okay, I went to a totally different subject, so don't be trying to apply it on the bell curve. It's not going to help you. So the Pearson R, that's what it's called sometimes. You'll see this big old word, Pearson product momentum correlation coefficient. Oh my Lord. You might see the R as well. But again, all it means is the number, the coefficient is the number, the correlation tells me how close they are based on the number. Okay. And again, perfect correlation. So it's going to be -1 to +1. So that means -1 can be, and so it's both sides of the bell curve. Okay, so a correlation between two variables is called bivariate. Bivariate just means two. Bicycle, it just means two variables. Okay. If there are more than 2 variables, it's called multivariate. Okay. By is 2, so 2 variables. Now, for example, my favorite example, of course, is I think it's the Maury Povich show. I think is he the one on now that does like You're the Baby Daddy. I think that's it. So what he does next time you watch it, because I know you watch it, he says he takes the baby's DNA and he takes the daddy's DNA and he compares the two. And he'll come back and say, it's a 99.9% chance that you are the dad. You are the baby daddy. So that's all that is. I've got 2 different variables. One DNA that belongs to the baby, one DNA belongs to the father, and I'm trying to see if there's how close they are. So again, 100 is as perfect as I can get, or 1.0, perfect. So if they tell you it's a 99.7% chance you're the baby daddy, yeah, you're the baby daddy. Okay. Now, the lowest we'll take to consider it reliable, to consider these 2 things related, is a 0.70. So if you look at 100 being perfect, right? So the lowest I'll accept is a C, because that's the 70, 0.70. Anything below 0.70, I will accept. It is still a correlation, but it's too low for me to accept. If they said, "Oh, hey, there's a 20% chance you're the baby daddy," you're not buying that, are you? Like, okay, I don't think so. So that's too low of a correlation. 0 means there's no correlation whatsoever. These things are not they're not even remotely related. Okay, but the 100 is perfect. That's the best you get. And again, that's always going to be qualitative, looking at the quality of those 2 things. Reliability and validity. Everybody gets those mixed up. Validity is the most important thing. Validity says, does it measure what it's supposed to measure? Right? Does it do what it say it do? Okay. So if I go and I bought a new battery, right? And they'd say, oh, it'll start my car forever, and I go out and my car starts. Hey, that's valid. It's working. So validity is the most important. Does it do what it says it's supposed to do? Does it measure what it's supposed to measure? Now, reliability is then over and over again. So now that I've got this valid instrument, I'm going to test it. I'm looking for terms like consistency, right? I think what else you might see, but those terms means reliability. You cannot have reliability without validity. Validity is the most important thing, is for it to be valid. And then if it's valid, I can promise you that it definitely will be reliable. That doesn't work the same way. So reliability is over and over again. And as I mentioned before, if the relative reliability coefficient is high, about 0.70 or higher, the test scores have little error and the measurements are said to be reliable. So I know that if it's that high, so let's say that we take the SAT or the ACT, right? So some colleges accepted both. We know that there's like a 99.9% correlation between those 2 things. That's why colleges will take either one, right? The ACT or the SAT, they'll take either one, because the assumption is if you do good on one, you'll do good on the other. So they have a really close, almost perfect correlation. Okay. So some of the inventories or test assessment skills you'll see on the test Sorry. Okay. The Stanford is the oldest test we have. That is the oldest intelligence test. It was written by, um, what was his name? Stanford. What was his first? Binet. What was his first name? Alfred Binet. He wrote that for the French government. They were trying to determine which kids belonged in school and to get them out of like the asylums. So that's what it was written for. America came along, right? Good old Americans. And they sent Robert Turnman. He is from Stanford University. Excuse me. And this won't be on the test. It's just kind of an anecdotal to help you remember. But we sent him from Stanford University to go over and see if the test would be usable in America. So he brought it over, and of course, calling it the Alfred Binet test because he came up with it. It's called the Stanford Binet test. Perfect IQ is 100. I'm sorry, average IQ is 100. Okay, so between 91 and 109, that is our standard deviation. That means the amount of possible error is 9. So if someone scores between a 91 and a 109 on an IQ test, they're still considered in that normal range. Okay. Stanford Binet, oldest one we have, it's made for children and adults. The WAIS, WAIS, and it doesn't matter what number comes afterwards. We're probably on the WAIS 37 million. It doesn't matter. The WAIS is for adults. That is 6 to 16. Okay. Below 16, I take the WISC, WISC. Okay. So that's going to be 6 to 16. Okay. There's another one called the WIPSI. It's a WPPSI. That's from kids from 3 to 5. And I always remember those are kids who still pee on themselves. The only time we usually give one of those is if your kid is trying to get into a very yuppie kindergarten or private school. They want them to have an appropriate IQ score. IQ does not change. If your IQ was 140 when you were 30, it'll be 140 when you're 90, unless there's some kind of cognitive impairment. Dementia, a stroke, things like that can change it. But overall, as we get older, it doesn't change. Okay. The ACT and SAT I've talked about. The MAT and the GRE, those are both to get into graduate school. Okay. Achievement tests just mean you've achieved it. Okay, so the clinical exam, both exams are considered achievement. So you've achieved this much knowledge and you're proving it on the paper. Okay, so personality test. The personality test, there's the one that most people think is a personality test, is that's my MMPI. The MMPI is not a test of how nice of a person you are. It is a test of how crazy of a person you are. It's looking for deficits, abnormalities in your personality. Not how happy you are, but how crazy you are. I'm not accepting your cookies. On the Minnesota multiphasic test, and we use it. We still use it. We still use it. We use it for many times people trying to get into the police system, the police department. You might see it being used for people who are trying to get into the higher ranks of the military. Okay, so you really might see those. The questions are going to be in the same order all of the time. It's written so people cannot lie. It's called a forced choice, which just means you have to say yes or no, but they're going to keep asking you the questions written in different ways to try to catch you in a lie or to keep you from lying. So they're looking for these these 6 categories. I've not seen these on the test. Just know that these are the categories it's looking for. And again, your level of crazy. Okay. And then the questions, I'll give you a few of those questions because they always start the exact same. If you've seen any of sometimes people in prison, you might see just the test questions. Mm-mm. Okay. I like auto mechanics. I like magazines. It's really, really simple to start off with. And then because you're supposed to just keep answering over and over and over again the same type of questions written different ways, it's supposed to, again, be able to catch any information that you're being dishonest about. Okay. Once in a while, I think things are too bad to talk about. At times, I feel like swearing. I do not always tell the truth. I do not read every editorial on the. I do not read every editorial in the newspaper every day. Once in a while, I put off until tomorrow what I ought to do today. I get angry sometimes, and they're written as a you keep questioning the person. You don't get a time that you're a chance to think. You're just kind of going over and over and over the questions. 567 questions. Okay. So that's the MMPI, not my personality. The one that's my true personality is my MBTI. That is my Myers-Briggs. That's the one you probably did in grad school, maybe. I used to do this when I did marriage counseling. It really let the couples know, like, where they were and kind of who they were. Let your spouse know who you are, who your personality is. So you're either going to be an extrovert or an introvert. And then the second question is, how do you prefer to take in information? Do you sense it or do you have intuition? I'm an N. I'm intuitive. I'm also an E. I know you're surprised. I'm an extrovert. I know, right? How I make my decisions, girl, I make them with my head. Okay. So I do. I make them with my feelings, make them with my heart, not my head. And how do you prefer your outer life? I am a perceiver, not a judger. And you can find to practice one of these on the interwebs somewhere. And find out who you are if you haven't done this before. But it's just kind of know tonight to do with even with your a family, with kids and the family, to know how different the person is. Okay, so that's looking at my personality. You might see these on here. These are projectives. Okay, the Rorschach is the ink blot. Remember, Freud is my unconscious guy. So his job was to bring things from the unconscious to the conscious. So he would use the ink block, which is this. It's like, whatever you see, butterfly, blah, 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 blah. If you've seen me for half a minute or seen my videos, you probably know what I see. But he'd ask you what you saw. He was the expert. He would ask you and you would tell him and he'd say, well, that's not what you mean, because he always read into what you meant. So again, it's trying to pull your unconscious from the conscious. The other one you'll see is a thematic apperception test. You might see the C, which is the children's apperception test, but it's the same kind of thing. He'll give you 20 of these questions. He'll ask you to describe what you see. Okay, so in this one, he'll give you 20 of them, and you're going to go through and just tell him what you see. And what he's doing is, again, he's trying to bring the things in your unconscious to your conscious. Okay. I like to have fun with these with my students sometimes, and I'll ask him, what do you think you see in here? Okay, so that's what that means. Those are all they're subjective because they're just Freud's opinion, and they're projective because they're projected from your unconscious. Objective are facts. My objective are facts. Subjective is your opinion. Remember in your SOAP notes, SOAP, you write the subjective, the objective, the assessment, and the plan. Okay, so subjective is just your view, your thought of it. The Beck's depression scale, you will see. The Beck's depression scale is one that we use and we use often. With the Beck's depression scale, what you might look at is, let me just show you what it looks like. Because you'll see that on the test. It'll talk about you gave a client an assessment early in and you kept giving it over and over again. And the question is, what are you looking for? So Beck is the father of CBT. Beck has a anxiety scale and a depression scale. Okay. So what you're trying to look at is the number, like where they're at on the depression scale. So a client comes in, right, and you administer the Beck. Okay. So the highest numbers are the worst, right? I'm so sad and unhappy that I can't stand it. I feel the future is hopeless and things cannot be improved, blah, blah, blah. So I get a score. If I get a really high score, over a 40, I'm extremely depressed, right? That means let's get out to the psychiatrist, psychologist, so let's get me some meds. But what I'm hoping for is because CBT, right? That's what we use. That is the theoretical orientation. That is evidence based for any mood disorder is CBT and medication. So this client comes in and let's say they score, kind of high in the depression scale. Let's say they're like a 20, right? They've got some borderline clinical. I'm going to tell them to go home and give them some CBT techniques, right? CBT says, changing your stinking thinking, looking at it differently. You might even see the term Socratic approach. Socratic means he's going to question you over and over and over again. So again, I'm going home, tell them to make some affirmations, repeat the affirmations. That is their assignment. They come back the next session, I'm going to give them the Becks again. I want to see if that number is getting lower. Okay. So if it gets really, really high and it's not getting any higher, then what I'm doing is not working. And we need to make sure that the client does see a psychiatrist for a med evaluation. But that is the Becks, and you would administer before, during, all those times when seeing a client. You might see some of these inintrusive and obtrusive. All of that means is when you're doing research, intrusive means you're right in the patient's face, right? You're trying to do observation in a classroom, and all the kids are watching you, are seeing that you watch them. That's intrusive. They're going to behave differently because you are there. That is called the Hawthorne effect, right? When people behave differently when someone is watching them, is the Hawthorne effect. Okay. So unobtrusive means I'm not bothering anybody. So an unobtrusive would be maybe a case study or a historical study. With Freud, he came up with his theory based on Anna O. That wasn't even his client. He belonged to somebody else. She belonged to somebody else, but he went through and he really researched her case, and that's where many of his theories came from. So a case study or historical always means looking at the past. Rating scales, of course, that is, again, you can just check off. That time, sociometry and sociogram, those both belong to Jacob Moreno. And you're probably used to seeing him for, he did the psychodrama, right? That's what he's known for. Getting up on the stage, and the protagonist is going to be the person with the problem. The antagonist is the other person, and you're going to watch people acting out my stuff on stage. Okay. But the sociogram looks at how people relate to each other in the group setting. So you see how Lisa talks to Sam and Lisa talks to Taylor, but neither one of them talk back to Lisa. So that's a sociogram. Okay. Sociometry is the study of people in groups and how they interact. Close out some windows. Okay. Okay. So I mentioned earlier between quantitative and qualitative. Quantity is your number. Quality is the experience. Quantity is cause and effect. Quality is correlation. How closely are these two things correlated? Okay. So when you are in an agency, the only study you can do is called a quasi-experimental. So that question is usually on the test. You want to see how well your clinic is doing. So a true experiment means that I have, a group of people. I have randomly put them into group A and group B. Group A is my control group, right? They get nothing or they get a placebo. Group B is then going to be my experimental group. So they're the ones getting the drugs. And what I'm going to see in the end is if the outcome was different. Okay, that's exactly how they test the COVID vaccines, right? So we know that of course we're randomized people. So truly, a true experiment always includes randomization. Now, in the real world, you cannot have people come to your office thinking they're getting their Zyprexa or Zoloft or any of those things. They're really getting a placebo. That is not okay. That's unethical. So a quasi experiment, QASI, quasi just means it's not quite an experiment. So quasi is okay in your office setting because they're not randomized. I know which people are getting the placebo, and I know which people are getting their actual drug. So I can ask them. I can say, hey, we've got this new plan that really works well with we've got this new this new protein, this new treatment plan that goes really well with depression. Would you like to be a part of our trial group? So that person knows that they're not getting their regular medication, they're getting whatever we're trying. So they're in the experimental group, but they know it. So that's why quasi is okay for your office because we cannot randomly pick people and not give them any medication. Not okay. That ethnography, or sometimes called an ethnogram, looks at the view from that ethnicity's viewpoint. Hey, stop. Okay. That's the view from the ethnicity's viewpoint. That also is called we have the etic and the emic views of culture. ETIC, etic, is when we see the world through the middle American view eyes, right? Middle upper class white American. We're looking from that point of view. That's etic. Emic, EMIC, is to look at the clients from their viewpoint. So an ethnograph helps me look at the clients from their viewpoint, not mine. So most often I'm going to really embed myself with the culture. I always think of like Jane Goodall with her apes, maybe gorillas, not real sure. And she lived with them, right? She made observations. She lived with them before that happened. So an ethnography is making sure that you understand the clients, the people that you're using in your research model. Mixed methods, of course, you can use both. It's really hard in my opinion. But those of you getting your PhD, not my choice. Go away. Okay. I mentioned this earlier, the single subject design, right? That's your AB, AB. My longitudinal studies. So longitudinal studies means that I started this when you were little and I've been carrying it for a long time. One of the reasons that we know that cigarette smoking is bad is because in the beginning, when my grandma started smoking, the Marlboro Man was cool, right? It was on every TV commercial, every billboard. The actors in the movies were smoking. I have friends now who are they teach nursing, and the nurses were smoking. Remember there was a pit in the high school, right? For the high school kids that are 18, go to the smoking pit. I know if you're young, never heard of that. But we thought it was cool. We didn't realize any problems with it. So longitudinal research, as we look over the years, now we know that smoking is dangerous, right? You see the commercials about people losing half their face or COPD. And we know that because of the long-term effects of smoking. Okay. We do not know the long-term effects of COVID vaccine yet, do we? That's a lot of people's hesitations because it just hadn't been long enough. We have no idea whether it'll work or not. We don't know what it'll cause in the future. We will have longitudinal studies at some point, but right now we just don't have enough. My cross sectional research, what that means is I am going to look at the different group of people at the same time. Okay. So it's 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If I said all of you when we hang up from this call, I need you to go to your local Walmart and see what people have in their cart. So at 8 o'clock, we'd all go out and you'd all look at and people have in their cart. That's what's a cross-sectional design. So same time, different people. That term meta-analysis, all that means, remember you have to do that lit review in college? Meta-analysis just means many other analysis, a lot of the other research. That's the same thing for your lit review. These are usually on there. My nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. So these are measurements, ways that we measure things, okay? The bottom two are going to belong to qualitative data. That is the quality, okay? Okay. The ordinal data is the order, first, second, third, fourth. The interval is time, but interval is a fixed time, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, fixed. Your clock moves minute by minute. Your thermostat goes up by degrees. Okay, that's interval. It means time, but it's the exact same measurement between the times. And ratio, of course, is 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5. That's the ratio and the interval data will both have numbers. So that makes it quantitative data because of the numbers. Okay. That's quantitative. Put those in your chat box as well. That nominal data gives us the least information. Nominal data is groups, right? Race, sex, sexual orientation, all of those things come into nominal data. Ordinal is order. First, second, third, fourth. If you have kids that play sports, you know ordinal data because you've said, my kid's team is in the third place, right? That's order. So again, those are the terms. the reasons it gives here, the examples. So nomina, for example, is male or female. With not with nominal data, you would use a non-parametric statistic like it's called the chi-square. Just remember it. Chi-square is when I'm going to use nominal data, that's categories, on a non-parametric distribution. So what that means is if my numbers are normally distributed, that's on the 68, 95, 99. Okay. So then my ordinal, again, like I said, is order. Okay. Your psychology test, rank from highest to lowest. Interval is time. An example, on a standardized test, the distance, the interval between 11 and 12 is the same as the distance between 24 and 25. Okay, so all that means is equal amounts of going up or going down equal amounts of time. And the ratio, of course, is you're looking for the numbers on a scale. It does have a true zero. What I'm looking for is twice as much, things like that. So, for example, someone who weighs 200 pounds is twice as heavy as someone who weighs 100 pounds. We can have a zero in the ratio. That's the only measurement that can have a zero, because truly, the zero number of doctors may have liked this, right? The ratio is 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10, all those good things. Okay. Sampling, of course, you'll see those. Random sampling means that everybody, anybody, everybody, anywhere has a chance of being in my group. Okay. I go outside the street and everybody in the world has a chance. Stratified sampling means I'm only looking for specific groups. So I want my survey, my research to match the population. So example, when we were doing the COVID and still doing the COVID vaccine, there was research on women ages 50 to whatever, and men ages this age, and Black Americans this age, and Black Americans this age. We did recently finish the research on children, right, 5 to 11. So that is stratified. We're looking at a specific group to make sure that this information is the same for all groups. Now, see, proportional stratification, you might see that in community. Proportional stratification refers to randomly selecting the same portion of individuals for the sample as they represent proportionally in the major subgroup in the population. So then, if I am doing research on a program at my college, and if it's 60% white, right, 20% Black, and 20% Asian. So I'm going to have 6 white people, 2 Black people, 2 Asian people. So proportionally stratified means it needs to match proportionally the ethnicities or the race or the other subcultures that are used in the study. Cluster sampling really is geographical. The same area code, the same zip code, all the same streets, all the 5th graders. So it really is geographically located in the same area. Purposeful sampling, those things not everybody can be in my sample on purposeful samplings. Okay. So the purposeful sampling is I need, for my research for my PhD, I looked at people that had graduated from my program. So it wasn't open to everybody, right? I couldn't go pick on the streets all these people. But if you had graduated from my program, then you were eligible. Okay? I still randomized the groups because we're always going to make it random, but that was the criteria. You had to have be from my program. So that is purposeful. Again, parametric, that means the numbers will line up on your bell curve. That's all it means. The perimeter, okay, so my parametric scores, I know, t-test, things like that. Oh my God, no, no, no. So the independent variable is the one that I always start with the dependent variable. The dependent variable is the one where I see the change, where I measure the change. Okay. So then if I've got my kid is sick, right? So we go to the doctor and he gives us medicine. The dependent variable is my kid's sickness. It's not getting better by itself. But the independent variable, let's say he gives us an antibiotic, right? That's an independent, that is my independent variable. I will know if the antibiotic works because my dependent variable will change, right? My kid will get better. He won't be as sick. If I have two independent variables, okay, so let's say I went to the doctor the first day, he gave him an antibiotic, gave him a Z-Pak, and it didn't work. We've still got this issue in my dependent variable. I go back and I say, yo, doc, this ain't working. Can we try something else? And he gives me another antibiotic. That is a t-test. I've got two or more variables, independent variables, and one dependent variable. Okay, so that is my t-test. Those are parametric. The assumption is that those numbers will line up on the bell curve. And ANOVA, A-N-O-V-A, ANOVA, that just means that I have more than two independent variables. I still have one dependent variable, okay? The example they use here, so a dependent variable, the client self-esteem, right? That's where they're going to see the change is in the client self-esteem. The independent variable are the things that they manipulate, right, to change the dependent variable. So in this situation, the dependent variable is the client self-esteem. The independent variables are the male or the female. Okay, so you have a male therapist or a female therapist. Okay, so in the beginning, that's just a t-test, right? I've got I've got my group of people with low self-esteem, and I have a male and a female therapist. That's a t-test. Two different independent variables, one dependent variable. Now my ANOVA is going to bring in one more. It's three or more levels. Okay, so this one says since you have three groups, the levels of training, you can't use a t-test. You're going to use a one-way analysis of variance, which is a big old fancy word for ANOVA. Okay. So, and again, same thing with this ANOVA. So now I have my dependent variable, still the same thing, the client self-esteem, the independent variable. Okay, so I've got three or more levels of that. So I'm looking at what degree they have. So that makes it an analysis, ANOVA, analysis of variance. Okay, that's usually about as much as you'll see, maybe a t-test and ANOVA. That's pretty much as much as you'll see. I always say if you see one of these, they're always the weird names. So the non-parametric test means they do not line up on the bell curve. Okay, that's all that means. They don't line up. So the Mann-Whitney, the Wilcoxon, the Crookes and Wallace, they're the weird names. But you do know the chi-square is the one that measures nominal data on the non-parametric style. Okay. Okay, I think I'm going to questions. You'll note you know these. Formative and summative. The formative is right. That's the process of evaluation in an ongoing or while it's forming. Okay. And then my summative is the summary. That is the end. Okay, so summative is the end, the summary, and the formative is in the middle or while it's beginning, while I can still change the program. Okay, I know there was a lot of information, and I'm actually going to now go over some questions. So You can ask me some stuff now that you would like. I know, right? I know, you're all so quiet.
Yes, that was a lot, but thank you.
So those of you and those of you that have taken the test, tell me what kind of research and stat questions that you saw that freaked you out a bit.
I saw that chi-square one. I see it wrong.
A chi-square.
Yeah, that.
There you go. See? Sounds smart. Like go to work tomorrow and say, did you know a chi-square measures nominal data on the non-parametric scale? Like, what? Like, yeah, it's true because I'm so smart. Again, I usually save these for right before your test because I suggest that you just memorize them. And you'll know me, I say you have to learn everything else. So when I say just memorize it, it really is what I want you to do. Just go over it and over it again. So those words don't sound they sound familiar, right, on your tongue as you're saying them.
Can we get them tonight, please?
I will put a copy in your chat box.
God bless you. Thank you.
Dr. Pam, I had one where you were speaking about the WISC and the WAIS.
Mm-hmm.
And the options in the question were the Myers-Briggs and the WISC and the WAIS. And when it said TAT, I didn't know what that was, but they had the Rorschach, and I just remember that as being like ink blots. And I believe that was the answer, but
So do you remember what the question was?
I have it. Hannah is a clinical social worker in a multidisciplinary outpatient psychiatric service. She has met 3 times with Drew, a 20-year-old whose primary symptom is depression and whose history reveals an inability to stick with a job or training program. Hannah suspects that Drew may be experiencing some psychotic thinking, and that he has troubles and is not entirely accounted for by a diagnosis of depression. She refers Drew to a psychological testing to help her make an assessment and differential diagnosis. She hopes that testing will identify whether Drew has a thought disorder, which test might the psychologist use to answer Hannah's question.
Okay. So what are my choices?
So one was the Myers-Briggs.
And what does that measure? Anybody? Now you know. What's the Myers-Briggs measure?
Personality type.
Yes, it's your personality type. So that can't be it. Okay, keep going.
Okay. And then the number 2 is WISC.
Okay, that is my whisk. What age was that used for, guys?
Children.
6 to
Or
16.
6 to
You got it. You
16.
got it. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
And
So
then
that's
number
not it.
3.
That's IQ.
Okay. Number 3 was the same, but it was, I believe, with adults, the WAIS.
That is 16 and above. Absolutely. So that's not it.
And then the last one was the TAT and Rorschach.
Okay. And those belong to who, now that you know?
Ooh.
Those are Freudian.
Freudian.
Those
Yes,
are
that
looking
one.
in your unconscious, bringing it to the conscious.
Okay.
Okay. So when you looked at the test, looked at whatever you saw, and he would tell you what that really meant because he was the expert in everything. Okay.
Okay.
So do you see how I got there now? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was kind of, I remember the intelligence, the 2 and 3, the WISC,
Mm-hmm.
because I had got one wrong like that. But now, yeah, I totally forgot about I just remembered ink blot, but I wasn't thinking about the unconscious part of it.
Mm-hmm. So the goal of psychodynamic therapy or psychodynamic is what we use now because that's what HMOs suggest. Psychoanalytic was the one before that you could sit on my couch for 3 years, nobody asked any questions. Okay, so my psychodynamic, anytime you see unconscious, bringing things from the unconscious to the conscious, that's always going to be a Freudian term. He believed that things were hidden in your unconscious. For example, even the defense mechanisms, right? He said they were good for us, but they were hidden in my unconscious. So the TAT, and he would look at the pictures of the black and white of the people, and you would have to describe to him what's going on in the picture. Okay,
What does
that make
TAT
sense?
stand for?
Thematic apperception, your perception test.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, stay with me here. Let's get you to tell me what you see. They also do a CAT, which is a children's apperception test. You might see that as well. It is your perception. What do you perceive is happening in the picture? Okay, see my picture?
Not yet.
Everybody else see my picture? Nope. Okay, let me go back and reset it.
I do now.
Okay. So then what he would say is, tell me what is happening in this picture. Give me a whole story about what's happening in this picture. Go ahead.
I don't see a picture.
She's mad at him.
For what?
Because he did not pick up his dirty clothes.
What kind of relationship do you think they have?
Oh, they're about to get divorced.
Oh, okay, okay. Anything else? The feelings, what is he feeling?
He's mad. He's disappointed her.
Oh, he's mad that he disappointed her. Okay, very good, very good. Anybody else want to take a shot at it?
I thought it was probably a mother and her son.
Okay, and what's the picture about? What's happening in the picture?
Similar to what happened. I think he did something wrong and she probably scolded him, and it's apparent that she's frustrated, but he's disappointed or accepted of the scolding, I would say.
On her face, you see what? I'm sorry, tell me again.
Maybe she's worried or frustrated.
Okay. There are no right or wrong answers. So Freud just believes that what you're telling him is based on your unconscious. He would say that Tia, somewhere in her life, has probably gone through a divorce. A parent, a friend, something has happened because that's what she sees. He would say, that Lamar, you got issues with your mama. Okay, because that's what you saw. So, I'm not wearing a Freudian hat. I'm just telling you that's what it means. It's projective, projecting your unconscious onto the picture, and then subjective because it was just Freud's opinion.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Dr. Pam. I am in tears.
Girl, I ain't trying to do therapy on you. I'm just trying to tell you how it works.
Oh.
Okay. Anybody else want to be brave enough?
I think the same. Maybe they got bad news. That's what I thought when I saw it. A mom and a son, and they got some bad news.
Okay. What news do you think they got?
Somebody died, or maybe somebody's coming to visit that they don't want to come visit.
Who do you think that would be?
The dad. the husband or the dad of this guy.
So what is he thinking, the son?
I don't know. He's older, so maybe I don't know.
Freud wouldn't be okay with that. You'd have to give him something. And don't think too hard. Just tell him what comes off the top of your head. That's all that means, right? So that's when it's thematic. You might see the children's apperception test. And it's the same sort of thing, but they're child pictures. So the CAT, again, it's your perception. There's no right or wrong answer. It is just how you perceive things.
Was that the CAT or the TAT?
This is the CAT. I was trying to find out. The one you did was the TAT. That's for adults.
And the CAT's only for children?
You got it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't want to make this. Can you see my monkeys?
I can.
Everybody see my monkeys? Okay. So this is the child's apperception test. So then put on your child hat, okay, and tell me what you see in the picture. Sherry, are you on tonight?
Dr. Pam, it's Michelle.
Yes. What do you see?
Like they're having like a party or they're at school and like a social thing, like maybe eating lunch or something. And then one kid is talking to the other kid and it may be about the other kid over there. And then one with the earring on looks like maybe I said that would be a teacher. And
Okay, so the
then,
two on the couch are
yeah,
talking to each other about the little one.
yeah.
Okay. And then the little one is talking to the teacher, and what do you think they're saying?
Just something general like, hey, it's lunchtime, you're doing good, keep doing your thing.
Why is
Nothing
he pointing the
specific.
finger? Why is that?
The finger.
So what does that mean?
It's more like he's giving him instruction, authority,
Okay, so maybe
something
he's
he
telling,
needs to do at
maybe he's
school.
telling him to go over there and kick the other two's butt. Oh, that's what I see. Sorry.
Okay.
Right? He's saying, see those people talking about you? You better go home and you better go out there and kick their butt. Here's what you need to do. Sorry. That's my stuff. But again, there's no right or wrong answer. He would say whatever you see in the picture, whatever you bring up is stuff in your own unconscious. Okay, so there's no right or wrong answers. Okay. Freud would ask you if you were bullied as a kid or if one of your children were bullied as a kid. Okay, make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's my CAT and my TAT. Those are, again, questions you'll see on the test. Okay. Again, anything else you've seen on the test that I didn't cover? Okay, we're going to zoom through a couple of questions here. So number one, a correlation coefficient that is not possible is what? Put it in your chat box, anybody. Perfect correlation is 1.0. Exactly. If perfect correlation is 1, it can't be better than 100. I can't get any better than I am now, right? I'm 100. So 1.0 or 100 is the highest I can get. 0 means there's no correlation. With number 2, it's a -6. Is that an acceptable correlation?
No.
It is not, because it needs to be at least what?
7.
There you go. There you go. Perfect. Number 2, a probability sample is not represented by which? So which of these is not considered a probability sample? And remember, I said earlier, probability samples are not open for everybody. They're only open for that number of people that I think will meet the criteria for my group. It is 4. It is just a random sample. That would not beat my group. That would not. So 2, 3, and 1, 2, and 3. So what we're looking for is, though, when I get my sample, even if you're the probability sample, I pulled you in, I still have to do something. I just can't pick you 10. I have to randomize it, right, to make sure it's an ethical experiment. So a simplified sample is sometimes called a systematic sample. That means I'm picking every 5th person, every 7th person, every 8th person. Okay. The stratified random, we know stratified is, again, the people have to fit a certain category. And quota sample, and y'all should know what quota means. We just need another person to fill the space. Right? We already have our 6 Asians and our 6 white people, so we're missing 2 Black people. We got to meet that quota. Okay. Number 5. Oh no, number 6. That's the Pearson's model of coefficient correlation. That's the R value. That means the same thing as my correlation coefficient.
Oh, 2, I'm sorry.
Number 6, correct?
Number 6, yes. What was our answer on number 6? It
2.
is 2. Right. So I guess the R value equals 100. So the closer it gets to 100, the better the correlation. Okay. So number 7. Let's look at that one too.
Two.
Okay. Of course, it's a longitudinal. It's my long term, right? Because I know it started. Okay. Number 8, a statistical measurement that is not used to measure reliability. Okay. Reliability is, does it do things? Does it do what it says it's going to do, right? I'm sorry, does it do it over and over again? That's reliability.
I have no clue what number 1 is.
Split half correlation. What that means, if I took the test, let's say you're learning your multiplication tables, right?
Mhm.
And we're on our 3s and 4s, and I told you only to do the odd numbers, and I told someone else to do the even numbers, you should still get the same score. I just took the score and split it in half, so it's split half correlation.
Okay. 2.
Okay. 2 is a concurrent correlation of validity. Do you know what that is?
two scores are valid?
You don't even know what it is. You just know it's validity, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So but which is not used to measure reliability would be something that measures validity.
Okay.
They're two different things, right? Don't think that hard on it. Don't think that hard. Remember, it's a reading test. Measuring reliability. I know the reliability is not the same as validity. Parallel forms, that's what happens in the test now. 4 people can go all take the same test the same day, the same time, sometimes in the same state, and you won't get the exact same test. Those are parallel forms. So you might get the same, like my question was 20, and we might get the same question, yours was like number 30, but we're not going to get the exact same test. Test retest just means that when I test the first time, right? And if I come back in 2 weeks later, and if I haven't studied and done one thing different, I'm going to get the same score. Test retest. Okay. Number 9.
Two.
Okay.
Or 3 experiments.
It's the same point in time, right? The same point. Okay. So that's going to be then 2 groups at one point in time. It can be more than 2 groups, right? But it's at the exact same time. I don't think I went over did I do the Hawthorne effect, right? I did that.
Yeah.
Look at number 11.
Two.
That is it. And how do I know that? What do I see in the question?
Mm, have to wait.
You're right, but just tell me how I know. I don't like guessing, right?
It's seen on time. People were seen on time, and the staff was ongoing study. Process for. I can't see it.
Okay, so I
can't
know
find
it's a
it.
Hawthorne effect because the director notifies the staff that there's going to be an ongoing study of agency process for receiving patients. Staff, they're measuring their process for receiving patients, staff courtesy in the reception, and the frequency in which clients have to wait more than 10 minutes. Okay, they know it's an ongoing study. They're watching me. They're watching me.
Mm.
Okay, so that's the Hawthorne effect, that people behave differently when someone is watching. Look at 14.
What number, Dr. Pam? Did you?
14.
Okay. Is it phenomenal?
Okay, so we know time, right? Time.
Mm-hmm.
Spending more or less time commuting. So which one of things talks about time? That is my interval. Interval is time. Okay. Ordinal is order, first, second, third. Interval is time. Okay. 15, look at that one.
Is it 4?
Or
Okay, got it.
Nice.
You got it. So it doesn't matter if it's a positive or negative. So positive correlation means the two things match. So let's say I'm looking at the price of gas and COVID. So as the COVID cases go up, the price of gas went up, right? So that's a positive correlation. If they both go down, it's still a positive correlation. Gas went down, COVID numbers went down. That's still a positive correlation. A negative correlation is when one goes up and the other goes down. Okay. 16.
mode.
1 mode.
Mode is the number that appears the most often. You got it. Okay. 17. This is one of my learning my independent and dependent variable.
Is the placebo still the independent variable?
Okay, so for me to understand it, I always start with a dependent variable. So which one would you think is the dependent variable?
I
The
was
one
thinking.
group. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
The one group that got the medication.
Nope. That's not my dependent variable. How will I know if there's a change?
That would be the dependent variable.
That's exactly. So tell me, how would I know if there's a change? That's my dependent variable.
Okay.
So the outcome of the new medicine. The outcome is where the change would be, isn't it? The
Okay.
outcome of the group, right? Did they get better or they didn't? So if the outcome is my dependent variable, my independent variables then would be both the drug and the placebo.
Right.
Okay, because I'm going to give you both of those to see if there's a change on the outcome of the medication. I know you got lost there. Ask me.
No, you pointed out the outcome as the dependent variable. I couldn't even figure out what the dependent variable was.
So that's what I'm always going to do. I'm going to try to figure out what is the dependent variable. How will I know if this worked? And then I can figure out the independent variables based on that.
So the dependent variable is the outcome, right?
You got it.
And the independent is the placebo.
The placebo and the drug are both independent variables.
Okay.
Because I've got two groups, right? I'm giving one the medication and one the placebo.
Oh, that's right.
Those are both of my independent variables. What I will know if there's a change in the outcome, right?
Got it. Okay.
'20 and '21 are kind of tough, I think. So see if we can figure out that one.
So race is the dependent variable.
How will I know the change happened? Okay, and don't do that. Don't just go down to the answers. Don't do that. Make sure you understand the question first. It's still a reading test.
Oh, so the racial homogeneity
Is what?
is the dependent variable.
Okay. How do I know that? You're right. You're right. How do I know that? Come on, you're right.
Change, the change in them.
Okay.
Because
So I hypothesize the greater the racial homogeneity, the greater the level of cohesion, right? So I will know the measure of change. If it changes, right, I'm going to be measuring the cohesion. So the cohesion is my dependent variable. Okay. So either they're racially alike or racially different, right? Those would be my independent variables. And then I'm trying to see, he's saying that the more they're alike, the same race, the greater the cohesion would be. So the race is an independent variable. I'm measuring the change because he says the greater the level of cohesion, that's where I'm measuring how much cohesion is this group having. That's my dependent variable. So then my independent variable, the one that is manipulating that, is race. Yes?
Oh my goodness, I would have so got that wrong.
Okay. You're always going to go back to the question and try to figure out where am I measuring the change when it comes to this. The rest of y'all are quiet. I promise you, these are worth the 5 questions. Ask me. They're worth the points. They are, because you just got to memorize them.
Mhm.
Okay, so then 21.
I give up.
1.
But I already told you what the dependent variable was,
Yeah.
right? We're measuring the cohesion. So which
Mhm.
one of those is the same as cohesion?
1.
Yeah, exactly. That's a group question too, right? Cohesiveness, those stages of group. Yeah, I gotta know those. Okie dokie. 24. Look at that one.
Our ratio.
Because
Caseload twice as many.
that's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Look at number 26. That's a little tough there.
Hmm. Two.
Okay. So in a recent survey of married couples, a statistical significance, statistical significance difference was found between older and younger couples regarding sexual activity during the wife's menstruation period. Okay. So they did a research study, right? And they used 2 groups, the older couple and the younger couple, and they were measuring how much sex they were having when the wife was on her period. Okay. Older couples tend to have less sex at this time. In this case, a statistically significant difference means, okay, so old people tend to have sex. So what can I infer? What can I guess from this question? So A is not it, right?
Right.
Older couples tend to have less sex. So one can't be true. There's no difference because there is difference.
Right.
Okay. 2, let me hold on to. 3, the observed difference probably did not occur by chance.
Right.
Okay. If it's statistically significant, that means it didn't occur just by chance. Okay. And what's wrong? Why can't it be 4? What's the difference between 2 and 4?
It's wrong.
What's the difference?
It's not what the question is asking. It's not in the STEM.
Should explanation on
Is
that
there,
one.
older couple?
I just wanted to show you the explanation on that one. 1 second. No, of course, I went way too far down. It's 3. So when I look at statistical difference, right, I'm looking at 0.05, which means there's a 5 out of 100 chance that there's going to be an error. If I lower that to 0.01, that means there's a 99% that it's correct and only 1% being an error. This is called your probability, or sometimes your p-value. What I know with my p-value, if I lower my score, if I lower it from a 0.05 to a 0.01, my type 1 errors goes down. My type 2 errors will go up. Just facts, doesn't matter why, just facts. Lost my questions again. Okay, let me go to a different set. Get a few more questions in, but let me go to a different set. Okay, get this one. Again, these are assessments, different types of appraisals. Okay, your supervisor suggests that you give a Beck's depression inventory test. This is a measure of what?
Is it, feelings? Is that A?
Aptitude. Aptitude is that belongs like the ASVAB. It's your potential of how
Okay.
you would do. Okay, so that's not it. And we know my intelligence tests are my WISC and my WACE, right? So that's
Mhm.
not it. It's a Beck's depression inventory.
C?
It is. It's a self-report, right? The client is telling you how they score on that test. Okay, that's it. Don't overthink it. This is the one that we talked about you and your divorce issues.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to answer?
Pictures.
Okay, which one?
A.
Dang, dang, dang. That's it. That's my thematic apperception test. Perfect. Okay. Lamar, you want this one? Not really.
I'll try.
Okay. Okay.
um, a reliability coefficient of 0.60 means
So that's, I'm looking at my correlation coefficient, right? How these two things are related.
um, I would say it's I
Just
say
be brave.
D.
D.
D as in dog.
B.
B. Tell me why. Anybody? How'd I get there?
I thought it was A.
Okay. Tell me how I got, why is that right?
Because 0.6 is 40%. She's 0.6 is 60%. So the rest of the 40% is
So when I'm looking at the reliability, okay, that number tells me how reliable these things are. Okay. So if I'm not comparing things, I'm just looking at one item. So if it tells me that this is 0.60, the reliability scale, that just means you got 60% of the questions are right.
got it. Yes.
Okay. Does that make sense?
I was thinking
So the
tomorrow.
reliability coefficient, that's just the number. The coefficient means number. And how reliable is that? So we've talked about if things are very reliable, like if I do well on the ACT, I'll do well on the SAT. Okay, but this correlation coefficient is 0.60. So this one instrument I'm taking, that just means, hey, I got 60% of them right. So this one.
B.
I got it. That's my PP ones, and you might not know that, but you should be able to rule out. The Otis lemon is something that we haven't talked about, and we know that we're testing IQ, right? So waist is adult, whisk is children, 6 to 16.
So it's B, right? As in boy.
Yes. Sorry, one more. I'll let you guys go. Okay. 6.
Wait. They're the independent variable.
Look at you. Yeah, yes. Learning something. Okay, look at this one.
Qualitative.
Qualitative. So we talked earlier, qualitative is the relationship, right?
Mm-hmm. Qualitative.
Quantitative, the numbers are
Quantitative is cause and effect. Quantitative numbers are cause and effect. Qualitative is how the quality was. Okay.
Hold on, please.
Hold
You
on to
say
that question.
you say quantitative is cause and effect.
Right. That's the numbers.
Okay.
Okay.
So I don't understand.
Qualitative, the quality. So when
Yes.
you leave a restaurant, right? Your doctor's office, they're going to ask you, could you please fill out this one question form, right? Or this 3-question form. And what they're looking at is how did you feel? How was your experience at the restaurant?
Mm-hmm.
That's all it means.
Which is qualitative, but it says
It's the
behavior.
quality. Yes.
Oh, that's right. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
It helps you out. Remember that I did a qualitative research for my PhD because I can't do numbers. Okay, so just remember qualitative.
Okay.
Okay.
B.
Okay. And so how do you get the mean? I won't make you figure it out, but how do you get it?
You're going to take all those numbers and divide it by however many numbers you've taken.
You got it. Okay. And you
How did
figured it
that
out
happen
too.
so fast?
I don't know, because I've been fingers and toes.
Well, I looked at it and I just took like 33 to 30 and 44 to
Okay.
80 and figured
That's
out what the middle.
Whatever.
smart.
Okay. So the range, you might see the range of numbers. You use a range when you have a small distribution. Okay. So the range, to get the range, you take the highest number and you subtract it from the lowest number. So I'm going to take the 43 and subtract, oh, I'm sorry, 50 and subtract it from the 29,
Okay.
right? Does that
Oh,
say again?
About it. All right, I'll just turn this off.
What was my
so
answer?
21. See,
Got it. That's all I'm going to do, subtract the highest from the lowest
to get the range.
to get the range.
Okay.
Mm-mm. Which is the most common correlation coefficient?
B.
That's right. That's my
R.
Pearson R. That's my Pearson R. Absolutely. Okay, guys, I got to wrap you up. The Hellwig. I'm sorry.
Don't go.
It wasn't that bad.
That's kidding.
Okay, so the Hellwig book I gave you last week, did I not?
I think so. I believe so.
You did,
Okay.
but I tried to open it up and I couldn't.
Did it make you ask me for permission?
No, I didn't see permission.
Okay. It's in the chat box again. Okay. And that's what I used today for the stats. And again, it's good for the other things, but do not freak out. Don't read careers. Don't freak out. No, no, no. Okay.
Thank
Guys,
you.
remember there'll be no groups next weekend because of the Thanksgiving holiday. So have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving with your family. Okay. So I think after COVID and all the things we've been through, that it is very, very nice.